vibrate, or silent. Anyone who wants to, or there is a list going around, if you could sign. Anyone wanting to speak under public comment, if you could please approach the table and do so when we get to your item, we'd appreciate it. Myself and Dr. Aldridge are here in person. Mr. Johnson and Mr. Escabel are on Zoom. And with that, we will get started with the first item. Clerk, please read the roll.
Number 7A, Bar and Grill liquor license application filed with the City Clerk's office for Westby Edge LLC, doing business as Westby Edge LLC, 714 West 20th Street, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. This item and the next item are related. They're companions. One is for a microbrewery and one is for a bar and grill for Westby Edge LLC. Both applications before you have been reviewed by the applicable city departments and Wyoming Liquor Division and have been deemed eligible. And the applicants are here should you have any questions for them, and I stand for any additional questions.
Great, thank you. Is there any comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
I just have a comment, Chairman White, through you. I'm really excited about your menu, and I'm anxious to see this ranch salad that's served on a pizza crust, so looking forward to it.
You shouldn't have mentioned the ranch salad so close to lunch,
No.
but I am excited as well. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this application, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item.
Number 7B, microbrewery liquor license application filed with the City Clerk's office for Westby Edge LLC, doing business as Westby Edge LLC, 714 West 20th Street, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. Ditto on this item, and I'm available for any other questions.
Thank you. Comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee?
Yes, sir, Jeff, when you're ready.
Go ahead, Richard.
Okay, Chris, I don't know how this typically works. So do they have, for their bar and grill license compared to their brewery, they're at the same address, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so do they have to divide? Is there certain rulings that they have to divide, like for where their bar's supposed to be under state statute, or how does this work when there's overlapping licenses for the same address?
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Johnson, it's my understanding, Mr. Johnson, that you can hold dual liquor licenses, these two in particular, at the same location. They'll just have to meet the guidelines of the dispensing building for the bar and grill and, you know, a couple of things for the microbrewery, which I know the Westbys are on top of that, so.
Okay, yeah, sorry, this is just the first time I'd really done overlapping ones, so I wasn't sure exactly how it worked, so thank you.
Good question, Mr. Johnson, and you're right, we normally don't see that, so good information. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Escabel?
Yeah, just a comment that, you know, for anyone else out there that's looking to get a liquor license, to realize that there are other ways that they can open their businesses and continue on and still serve liquor.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'll just wish the Westbys good luck, and we're looking forward to seeing the finished product. With that, all those in favor of the microbrewery liquor license application, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 21, ordinance third reading, approving and establishing revised water and sewer rates, tap and system development fees, administrative fees, service charges and penalties, and septic and commercial waste dump rates as recommended by the Board of Public Utilities.
Staff report, Mr. Brooks.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Brad Brooks, Director of City of Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities. This is the typical ordinance we bring before the city every year, just establishing our revised fees and rates for water and sewer services for the city of Cheyenne. I won't go into a lot of depth because I already have at previous meetings, but this is, again, a result of our study that we did here it's already been 2 years ago, but, and it's basically based on our cost of service analysis. I think a lot of you council members, fortunately, were able to sit through a lot of our presentations on that and hear our presentation from our consultant. And so these are just our fees that we bring before council each year for approval. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I also have here with me our admin manager, Brad Bowen, and our engineering and water resource manager, Frank Strong. So glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you all for being here. Please stand by. Are there comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, is there a motion from the committee?
I would so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this, of the revised water and sewer rates, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thank you.
Very much.
And just before we, Jen goes to the next item, since Richard and Mr. Escabel are on Zoom, we always get a delayed response from participants on Zoom, just so you know. Next item, please.
Number 29, resolution approving the budget of the Cheyenne Downtown Development Authority for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th of 2023.
Staff report.
Hi, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. City Code requires that the Downtown Development Authority shall, before the first day of May of each year, submit to the governing body and the City Treasurer a proposed operating budget for the forthcoming fiscal year. This budget shall be subject to modification and approval by the governing body. Therefore, before you is a resolution requesting your approval of the Downtown Development Authority's fiscal year 2023 budget in the amount of $1,431,500. I invited Dominic Bravo, and I believe he's on Zoom. He's the acting DDA director, to attend today's meeting if you have specific questions, and I will stand by for questions.
And I see Dominic is on via Zoom. Stand by, Robin. Stand by, Dominic. Comments or questions from members of the public on this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Thank you, Chairman White, through you. I'm wondering, I have two questions. One is that I'm wondering when this budget was presented to the DDA board. The DDA board.
Mr. Bravo?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm in a hotel room. I'm attending the International PW here in Orlando, but basically, so it's an interesting process for the way this functions, and it's been this way for years, is a draft budget was submitted to the entire merged board of Visit Cheyenne and DDA, but they won't actually vote on the budget until next week. So that's during our current board meeting, and then we have a public hearing on it, specifically the first week in July, I believe. It's very interesting, even the way the ordinances work for DDA, and it's something when I first came on through the merger that realized that it's still considered a special district since it receives mill levy funding. So through that process, that's how it has always kind of followed that pattern. So it is kind of interesting the way it fits into the city process. So ultimately, although presented in a draft form, the Visit Cheyenne and DDA board has not voted on this budget yet.
Dr. Aldridge?
Yeah. As a follow-up question, Dominic, I'm curious also, when we merged the two boards, we said that we were going to merge them and basically on a trial basis and kind of reevaluate at the end of 1 year. Has there been any type of reevaluation done or an evaluation done on how that's working and any report that's been given to the council? I haven't seen one if we've done that.
Mr. Chairman, and Dr. Aldridge, no, so the MOU is a 2-year MOU, and the goal was to evaluate, as you had just stated, at the 1-year mark, which would technically be, I don't think we made it official until July 1. So the goal was to discuss, one, even how this budget process went forward, because this is technically the first time we've done the budget this way as a merged organization. So a lot of the things, if we decided to make this permanent, we would have to work with the governing body. We don't think that any type of statutory changes would need to be made, but there would have to be some interesting things made. As I just mentioned, it's a weird process to have 2 special districts for instance, June 1st, our special district form that we have to fill out, I had to do 2 separate different ones. One has to, and they both have to go to both the county and to the state auditor's office, and had to do them as separate, and then again, this still hasn't passed the city process of the budget. So I think the goal to actually evaluate some of these successes over the last year would be probably in July and August, to see if it would be something that we would continue on either in an MOU temporary status or make permanent by actually adjusting ordinances going forward. But the MOU is a 2-year MOU. And as you stated, yes, we would like to do a 1-year evaluation and presentation.
Chairman White, I'd like to propose that we postpone this adoption of this budget for at least 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks is the most we can postpone it. And so I think that it's important for their board to be able to adopt it before we adopt it. I think that's kind of backwards, quite honestly.
It's been moved to postpone this budget item for a period of 2 weeks, which would be, I think, the maximum that we can postpone a resolution. So is there a second? Keeping in mind that the Finance Committee Chairman cannot vote on things unless there's a tie. I'm not hearing a second, so the motion to amend fails. We are back on the main motion of this budget. And I'm glad you clarified that, Dr. Aldridge, because when I first read the item, I had not turned the page over to see that it was a combined budget, because the number, I'm used to the city amount, which is $250,000. I saw that it was much higher than that, and then saw that the reason for that is because of all the different entities this time around. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? We'll see if there's someone else, Dr. Aldridge, before I come back to you.
Mr. Chair.
Escabel or Mr. Escabel?
Yeah, we're going to have an opportunity to review the budget after the board sees it again, aren't we?
Robin?
Mr. Chairman, no, if it's approved next Monday, you won't.
Right, so we'll, the full budget will be looked at again tomorrow night at Committee of the Whole, and then if we approve it at the next meeting of the full governing body, then yes, we wouldn't really get a chance to come back and look at this, would we? Robin is shaking her head no, Mr. Escabel.
Okay, well, at least we can discuss it between now and then, if there are any more questions. The other thing I had was in one of the reports we got from Forward Cheyenne when we were looking at consolidating some of the boards, there were a couple other groups as well, that I think the chamber and one other one, we were looking at the possibility of having just one CEO. If Dominic's still on, is that something that we're still considering down the road?
Mr. Bravo, I hadn't heard anything along those lines, but Mr. Bravo, can you shed any light on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd hate to speak on behalf of my fellow CEOs, both at the Chamber and Cheyenne Leads. We've always had that as a common discussion, as they did explore that when Forward Greater Cheyenne had come forward with various proposals. I think that is still something that is in the mix, but as it stands right now, I don't foresee it happening, at least within the next year or so.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, if it was still part of that discussion, and no further questions.
Thanks, Mr. Escabel. Dr. Aldrich?
Yes, Chairman White, through you. I just find that the idea that we're going to approve this before their board has even had a chance to approve it, quite honestly, to not show good faith in their board. And so I'll be voting no today. So just wanted to go on record as saying that we really need to look at that ordinance and change that date, because this is not working for that board. There's no reason for them to have a board to approve a budget if we don't allow them to do their job. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aldridge. Other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
This item moves forward with Dr. Aldridge voting no. Next item, please.
Number 30, resolution approving the budget of the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th of 2023.
Staff report.
Again, excuse me, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. Municipal code requires that the Cheyenne Airport Board submit annually a proposed budget approved by the governing body. Therefore, before you is a resolution requesting your approval of the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board's budget for fiscal year 2023. Their proposed budget is $30,367,848.57. I invited Tim Bradshaw, the Director of Aviation for the Airport Board, to attend and answer any specific questions you may have, and their board did approve this budget.
And Mr. Bradshaw is available if there are any questions, and Robin verified that their board has approved this budget. Any comments or questions for members of the public on this item?
Oh, sorry. I'm busy writing.
I know.
No, I don't see any hands raised.
Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 No one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 32, resolution approving the Hines and the Whole Urban Renewal Plan and the Hines and the Whole Urban Renewal Project pursuant to Wyoming Statute 15-9-110.
Staff report. Mr. Bloom.
Chair and members of the Finance Committee.
Do you want to be updated? I
yes.
tried to do it like multiple times and then we went second. So.
Sorry, I'll do it. I'll go ahead and.
You got it now?
Might not be
There we
a
go.
bad idea.
He thinks I'm always picking on him and not upgrading him, and I actually think he's not paying attention.
It was in the background window.
He was probably watching the avalanche when you tried to do that, so.
Just the highlights,
distracted.
just the highlights.
Go ahead, Mr. Bloom.
Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director for the record. What you have before you is the Hines Urban Renewal Plan and Project. I'm starting a screen share which will show the boundaries of the plan and project eventually. But this one's a little bit more simple than the other one that's on your agenda. This one incorporates two properties in downtown, one being the Hines Building and the other one being the property commonly referred to as the Whole, which is immediately next door. What this plan and project accomplishes are two items. Number one, there's the property on your screen right there. Number one, what it accomplishes is the start of a tax increment financing district, which are projections that we pulled together indicate that it could generate in a 25-year period, $1,099,169 in tax increment revenue that could be utilized within that polygon that just disappeared. And also, it could be utilized in the adjacent rights-of-way for public improvements. We did keep this urban renewal plan and project a little bit more open It allows for remediation, allows for public improvements, landscaping, beautification, and economic development. So there's a variety of different uses it can be done. With the first plan and project that we approved for the hitching post, that was very detailed as to what those expenses could be for. Those expenses were limited to roadway infrastructure, utility infrastructure, as well as environmental remediation. And then later, we added stormwater drainage as an eligible TIF activity. We've learned our lesson. We want to keep these a little bit more broad. In determining what that increment was going to be, we utilized some nearby comparable properties in the downtown. Those properties were the Crooked Cup, the Crown Bar, also the Greer Building next door, which was redeveloped, and the Wyoming Home Building, and that's how we came to that projection. The other element of this urban renewal plan is authorization for the governing body to utilize the powers of eminent domain through condemnation. So that is the element that has been the most discussed at the previous meetings of the Planning Commission and the Urban Renewal Authority, and there was discussion that was brought up at the public hearing, which is held in front of the City Council. Staff would like to note that as this plan moved forward through the Urban Renewal Authority and as it moved forward out of the Planning Commission, both of those recommendations were that the governing body adopt a plan that established an increment but did not authorize the use of condemnation. So the way this plan is drafted right now, it does state that condemnation is in the plan. If directed by the governing body, staff will remove that from the plan and draft a plan in accordance with the that you all would make. Since the Planning Commission and the Urban Renewal Authority did consider these items, staff has been alerted that there have been several offers that have been made on the property, so it looks like a sale is moving forward. At this stage, we do not have any information on exactly who those parties are, but that would be something that would by the applicant or by the property owners if they wish. With that, I'm open to any questions you may have on this project. Again, the recommendation of the Planning Commission is to approve the urban renewal plan and project with the modification to remove references to utilize condemnation. Plan and project.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Bloom?
From the public or from us right now?
I'm gonna go for members of the public. Thanks, Richard, for the clarification. And Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Could you identify yourself with your name for the record, please?
Yes, Jim Weaver. I am, my address is 6811 Prairie Hills Drive, and I work for Number One Properties here in Cheyenne, and we represent the current owner of the building, and that's the Cheyenne Development Partners, LLC. We've had great work with the staff over the last few months trying to make sure our position is well known, that the condemnation is really a difficult situation for the building, for any potential buyers, in the sense that there's kind of an impending doom laying over the building itself. The owner really appreciates the concept and the ability to utilize the tax increment financing. Any developer or anybody purchasing the property would see the positive aspects of that. It is the threat of condemnation and eminent domain that causes pause, if you will, with somebody putting out the money for the building, thinking that at any time the city has what has been termed by many as a simpler path towards condemnation and eminent domain than a path that would be available outside of a URA. So we're in a situation where the URA provides us this really positive element of increment financing. We like that. Don't like the eminent domain condemnation aspect of it. just as a comment, you're going to be looking at, on the next item, on 15th Street corridor, another plan that's been proposed. And doing a quick search of that plan compared to this particular plan in front of you about the Hines and the Hole, condemnation is mentioned 10 times in the plan for the Hines and for the Hole. There is zero mention of condemnation in the 15th Street corridor. And I appreciate the staff's position on this. It seems like they're behind following the recommendation of the URA and the Planning Commission, but I'm more than happy to answer more specific questions about this condemnation clauses that are in this plan and how we believe that it's not just sitting out there, that it actually has been planned to be used. So we're trying to just go with the flow here, hopefully get a recommendation from this board to the council to remove that. So I'm here to answer any questions. There, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Mr. Bloom, Mr. Weaver brought up the difference in language between the next item and this item. Want to provide any any clarification on that?
Yes, Chair. At this time, there are two differences between the plan. This one has those two elements, the authority for condemnation and also the increment. With the 15th Street plan, it is solely to create an increment. Condemnation was not something that was discussed there, and it was not an item that we thought we needed in association with that plan. There is an ability for property acquisition in the 15th Street plan, but that is more of acquisition for areas that are owned by Union Pacific that could be utilized for parking in the future. But that is correct. The plans do have two different elements, and condemnation was one that was not included in the 15th.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll go ahead and second. Oh, Mr. Escabel did second that. Okay, comments or questions from members of the committee? Aldrich?
I do have questions, but Richard had wanted to go first. I mean.
Oh, okay.
No, it's okay. I can see she can go first because maybe she'll ask the same thing I was going to. So go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, Dr. Aldrich, go ahead.
Thank you, Richard. Chairman White, through you, I have several questions. One is on page 3 of this item that accompanied our packet. It talked about the deteriorating structures. There's a photo on the, I think it's supposed to be following page, it says following page, shows clear evidence of the west wall of the Hines building deteriorating, but I didn't have any pictures that accompanied this. I'm guessing there was more to this report than 3 pages? Because I only got 3 pages. Did you get just 3 pages also?
Are you talking about that part?
The Hines and the urban renewal?
That's actually, I got 3 pages, yes.
I got 3 only too. So are there some pictures you can show us that where it shows stuff falling off the building? I haven't noticed that downtown, but maybe.
Chair, Mr. Bloom, go ahead.
Chair, through to the committee, and it sounds like there may have been a little shortening of the paper packet that went out to you all. This is a digital version online. The digital version does have all elements of the plan. There are, looks like an additional, probably like 5 or 6 pages at the end. It's also on the Urban Renewal website.
Okay.
When we're looking at urban renewal plan and projects, there is essentially a requirement that we're looking to see, are there deteriorated structures or deteriorated buildings or remnants of buildings in the area? It's not necessarily saying that the Hines is the building that is having deterioration. As you can see here in this picture that is on page 6 of the plan and project, it just shows some of the remnants of the previous building that was attached,
It was over the whole.
Mary's Bakery. So that is what that is referencing when it comes to deteriorating buildings and structures.
And then a follow-up question that I have is, have been looking through this resolution. I'm not seeing the term condemnation, other than in the, third whereas, where it says recommended that the planning commission recommend approval of the Hines in the whole, I don't even think it's actually in that sentence. So is this resolution that we now have in our packets, has this been, for lack of a better term, scrubbed after the URA meeting to remove the term of condemnation? Or does this one still retain that? Because I'm not seeing it anywhere.
Mr. Bloom?
Chair and committee and council member Dr. Aldridge, great question. The resolution will stay the same regardless of the motion because it is basically documenting what has happened so far in the process. What would change if you all were to make a motion to ask for the plan to be modified to remove references to condemnation? What we would do is we'd have a substitute attachment that would come forward, and that attachment would essentially remove the references to condemnation. As Mr. Weaver had indicated, there are approximately 10 references to condemnation in the actual urban renewal plan and project. That is where those changes would be made because that is living as an attachment.
And Chairman White, through you.
Go ahead, Dr.
I can see where if somebody's trying to sell a property, that having people saying that it's, it has the ability to be condemned would be harmful to being able to try and sell your building. So, I would like to make an amendment to remove, references to the word condemnation from this, resolution, or from this resolution and documentation.
Thank you, Dr. Aldridge. It's been moved to amend this resolution to remove references to condemnation. Is there a second on the motion to amend? Second? I'll second for the sake of discussion. With that, is there any comments from members of the public on the amendment? Mr. Weaver?
Yes, first of all, I appreciate the motion. I think that taking that step will enable us to continue on with the offers that we have at hand without any hesitation from the buyer. I think having this cloud over the property is only putting the property in risk of coming to closure with a new owner. I didn't want to go into a lot of the history about, and I won't, a lot of the history about how we got to this place, but the Hines certainly is next to the hole. There's no question about that. There are some questions about the bricks falling down as to whether they belong to Mary's Bake Shop, because in the old days, they had party walls. And so the bricks that you see there being loose, one could argue that that's not even part of the Hines. And staff has come to the point of seeing that also potentially. If the city wants to go through the process of condemnation, there's other avenues to get there. But to have it in this plan that provides a simpler path, and we've had this conversation, that a simpler path is that now that it's in the plan, the city can just implement it without going back and trying to justify the process of it's condemnable, it's blighted. Those things would have to start from scratch if the city were to want to take this. And I think that's certainly the city's right, but this plan, again, streamlines that process that gives doubt to people. We're asking that it just be removed. City can still go down that path, and I think the director would agree with me, there's avenues to get there. The current owners only held it for 6 years, and I know that's a frustration for all of us in this town. The building's been vacant for 36 years.
Close to 40, yes.
Yeah, not 40, but close. We all get that, and nobody would buy the building and pay debt service on a loan for 6 years without trying to go forward. The tax increment financing that the URA process allows it is going to help that. It's going to help the new and the soon-to-be new owner of the building. I think it's a pretty simple process to remove this. I understand it's just a recommendation you're making to the council. We will be there Monday night again, asking for the same thing, because until we hear that the council is directing the staff, we have to stand up for the property rights of this owner. And I have to be honest with you, as a realtor, property rights of anybody in this town that has a home, has property, to create a path of taking your property that's easier just for the process just doesn't make sense. So again, I appreciate, Dr. Aldrich, your motion, and I hope we have further conversations. I'll answer any questions from the other members.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Any other comments or questions from members of the public?
Hands raised.
Thank you. With that, any comments or questions from members of the committee? Mr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you. I share the frustration with this building, having grown up in our community. Remember when it used to house things like the Mercy Farm Pie Shop and different things on its main level. But I do think that it is something that hopefully can be sold, can be remedied, and it would always be my choice to have eminent domain be a last resort in any instance. But I do think that we need to be able to fish or cut bait on this project. So if things don't progress in a timely fashion, I think that, there is always a possibility that we would have to come back and look at condemnation. But I'd like to give you one last shot to get it sold.
Thank you, Dr. Aldrich. Other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to amend this resolution, which would remove all references to condemnation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
The motion to amend fails with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Escabel voting no. Again, the chair cannot vote unless there is a tie, which we probably won't have today. With that, we are back on the main motion. And all those in favor of the resolution as is, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The resolution moves forward. Dr. Aldridge voting no. This item will be heard again by the full governing body at the next meeting next Monday night. Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Oh, you're probably going to stay. Next item, please.
Number 33, resolution approving the 15th Street Corridor Urban Renewal Plan and the 15th Street Corridor Urban Renewal Project pursuant to Wyoming Statute 15-9-110.
Staff report.
Chair and Committee, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director for the record. This is another urban renewal plan and project. With the last item, we did hint a little bit on this. This is one that is intended to create the ability to create a tax increment only. Condemnation is not a part of this plan. As you can see on the screen, we have the boundaries. Essentially, this is from the Reed Rail area to the east, to the depot. Between Thomes and Reed, it does cover all blocks between 15th and 16th, and then on Lincoln Way, it is only the southern half adjacent to the railroad. With this plan and project, there are a variety of existing businesses. We have held public open houses and invited the property owners who have attended this open house, and so far, most folks, or most every person has been in contact with us, has expressed excitement, and they're really happy for this opportunity to be in this district. We did not make projections for what the increment would be, but we do understand that any increment that would be created would be positive when redevelopment occurs. Right now, a lot of the building spaces are vacant. There are spaces that are underutilized, so any new development would essentially create an increment. What we would plan to do is we would plan to, evaluate what the increment would be on a case-by-case basis as folks came in for application. With this urban renewal plan and project, this is again very wide open. It allows for remediation of contaminated materials, contaminated buildings, similar to what was at the hitching post. It allows for property acquisition to fund items such as parking areas, community parking lots, and it also allows for landscaping and infrastructure improvements. With that, staff did present this to the Urban Renewal Authority, and it did go to the Planning Commission, and a public hearing was held by the governing body. The Planning Commission and the Urban Renewal Authority both recommended that the governing body approve this plan as drafted. I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Charles. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you to Mr. Bloom. So my understanding is with the adoption of this URA, it would be what we're calling the 15th Street corridor project, that we would also, are we also accepting or adopting, I'm guessing, this plan that's attached to this as well?
Mr. Bloom?
And Chair, through you to Dr. Aldrich, yes, the plan that is attached is an attachment to the resolution, so that plan would be adopted.
So, a follow-up question,
Go
Chairman
ahead.
White. I have had some constituents reach out to me that are concerned about the parking situation along 15th Street. I too am concerned about that. We continue to bring in more and more business to the downtown area, but we haven't really addressed parking in some of those areas that are further away from the parking garage. And I know that's been a concern of some of the building owners along 15th Street. I'm just curious, you talked about acquisition of property that the UP Railroad owns currently, and we know that we've been sarcastic, my comment will be sarcastic, really successful in dealing with them so far.
Yeah.
So I would not be hedging any bets on being able to acquire anything from them currently. I'm just really concerned that this project, while I fully support the concept behind it, I'm really concerned that the lack of parking and the lack of, and our counting on UP Railroad to do anything that would be beneficial to the city interest may be overrated.
Mr. Bloom, I have to say, I agree with my colleague from Ward 3. I've had a lot of folks reach out to me about the same concerns, particularly colleagues of mine who work for the Business Council, who rent out that west lot directly west of the Depot Museum. I know the Business Council rents out that lot for employee parking. So, yeah, can you shed some light on this if you can, please?
And Chair and committee members, yes, I can definitely shed some light on it. We're very optimistic that we can work with Union Pacific to acquire on the screen, we have the undeveloped areas of the south of 15th Street and near the Y. We're very optimistic that we can work with them to come to an agreement for acquisition of that property. And if that does not come to fruition, there have also been discussions about looking at a conversion of 15th Street to a one-way street. This has been presented at the Railroad Experience Open House, as well as some others. A conversion to a one-way street would allow for parking to be introduced along that area, whether it be some type of angle parking or parallel parking, which would provide some relief to the businesses in that area. So having discussions about what can we do if the Union Pacific parking negotiations don't move forward. At this time, maybe we're wrong for being optimistic. We are very optimistic. We've been working with other property owners in the area who have really sort of set the stage for those discussions, and they have completed the handoff to the municipality to go ahead and take the next step.
Follow-up question, Dr. Aldrich?
I would just say that, when the last 6-penny sales tax was passed and we were optimistic about our ability to work with the railroad as well on the Reed corridor, I'll be voting no today. I'm more than happy to support this once we get the UP's, sign off, but until then, I just think we are creating our own parking nightmare downtown.
Thank you, Dr. Aldridge. Comments or questions from other members of the committee? I share your concern, Dr. Aldridge. Again, I can't vote unless there's a tie, but, been on council a few years longer than you, so my cynicism and exhaustion is more than yours. There are no other comments or questions. All those in favor?
Make sure we're.
Richard,
I'm
do you have
good.
a question? Okay. Okay, no, thank you. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
No.
This item, Mr. Johnson and Dr. Aldridge vote no. This resolution, fails to, but have any type of recommendation. Next item, please.
Number 34F, memorandum of understanding between the City of Cheyenne and Laramie County School District Number 1 to provide transportation services for the summer rec camp program.
Staff report.
Hello, Jane
Hello.
Burstein, Recreation Coordinator. So this is our annual agreement with the school district to provide transportation for our kiddos in our summer program. We currently have 266 kids registered.
Wow.
We do have buses of our own, but unfortunately, with us trying to manage the day-to-day rotations of those kids, we're the ones with the CDLs, so we are unable to drive, and that's why we need this agreement. I did see that it's general fund, and that is incorrect. It's actually an 014, so it's budgeted out of our participant fees. That's what pays for this.
And this, this MOU's been going on for years.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's my 22nd summer here, and
Wow.
we've worked with the school district all of those summers.
wow.
Thank you. Stand by, please.
Yep.
Comments or questions from members of the public? Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldridge?
Chairman White, through you, as I was looking at this, I'm just curious as to how this, what this looks like in dollar amount as compared to past MOUs. I noticed that we're paying $2.27 a mile for maintenance, depreciation, and administrative. In addition, we're paying driver and salary benefits. In addition, we're paying the fuel cost, and in addition, we're paying for disinfectant. So I'm guessing disinfectant probably wasn't in previous MOUs because of COVID, but what, is that $2.27 a mile pretty comparable to what we've paid in the past?
Mr. Chair, through you, Dr. Aldridge, yes, it is. They raised it last year on us, and we were able to cover that. So we have $35,000 allotted for it. We haven't needed that, as I kind of fine tune when we need them there to make sure that we're well within budget on that. But the disinfectant did start shortly after COVID, because they have, stuff that they require for their seats to be cleaned, which I love, because then we're not cleaning those seats. But yeah, for the mileage and everything, they increased it last year, and they did a small increase this year, but as for paying like driver, all of that, we've always paid that. It's not anything new to it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your years of service to the city.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
There's no one opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number
Thank you.
34G, professional services agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Steiner Zusen PLLC for the cemetery irrigation system design project.
Hi, Jason, staff report, please.
Yeah, Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. So this is a project that was passed by the voters, in the 6-penny ballot, and this is to design a new irrigation system for our cemetery. So in this, proposal, it includes the base mapping, the equipment selection, construction documents, site visits, but it also includes, their assistance when we bid the project to be installed. So they'd be here for that to help with shop drawings, the system layout. So since they design it, they'll go and make sure that it's laid out properly for the contractor that installs it, to install it. They would do the, substantial completion observations. They would also, build the as-built mapping when the construction is completed. So we know exactly where all the valves are, where all the heads are, how all the lines run. This is a project that we've needed for many, many years. So we're excited that we're making progress moving forward. So I'm here to answer any questions, but we do ask for your support in awarding the contract to Steiner, Houston, I want to make sure I say their name correctly, for a total amount of $144,692.
Thanks, Jason. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public on this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve, this contract not to exceed $144,692.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you, I'm just curious, Jason, if you can tell me, what was the other bid? Because we only saw this one in our packet.
Mr. Chair, through you. So we do these bids, we do interviews, and then we only open the bid for the firm that is selected.
Oh, okay,
And so we didn't open the other quote from Aqua Engineering.
okay. And yeah, I think you clarified this, but there is no construction here, even though it says construction period services. It's only for the service during the construction phase.
That is, Mr. Chair, through you, that is correct. It's for the design and then to manage the construction during the process.
Thank you.
And Jason, this is paid for out of the 6-penny ballot, just to clarify
That is
for the
correct.
record. Yes, thank you. Other comments or questions from members of the committee?
Looks like
Yes,
we're
sir, when
good.
you're ready. Yeah, sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
Rich. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jennifer, I'll lower my hand on this one after I'm done. On Exhibit B, Jason, can you cover 11, 12, and 13 of why they were removed from the project?
So, Mr. Chair, through you.
Go ahead.
So number 11 was the warranty inspection. So we figured that to save some dollars, that our staff at the 1 year after the system has been installed and working, that we would do the final inspection and call out any items that would be required for a punch list. The second item was the survey tree locations. We could do that in-house with our forestry division. And then the drawings and GIS format, we would have an as-built already from them, and so we'd work with our own GIS department to have that function complete.
Thank you.
So just to
Johnson?
follow up, Jeff.
Go ahead.
So just because the warranty inspection was in this, because I didn't see it in the contract or in this one. So if we remove the warranty inspection from the project, that doesn't have any violation on the warranty, that if we do it in-house and then we submit anything that we might think is covered under warranty, that they might come back and actually deny us the warranty because we did it in-house instead of using their inspectors?
Jason? Mr. Chair, through you. So when we bid the construction of the installation of the system, we'll have that documentation into that. The warranty inspection, the final walkthrough per se, will be conducted in-house, and that's not part of this contract with this company.
So this one doesn't come back to bite us, even though I understand when we do the construction documents, or even if that comes before council, that they could come back from this document, say that this is removed from the project. So I'm worried about a catch-22, because if we have something in the document that says we removed it here, we're going to do it in-house. Now it's on the record that we're doing it in-house, even though it states in the contract. Could there be pending litigation in regards to our warranty coverage? Strictly, even if we do a walkthrough with their staff, with our own staff, there's no problems with that, even though it's two different documents?
Hold on, Mr. Johnson, you've caused a ruckus, as usual. And so TJ Bartlebort's approaching the table. Go ahead.
Chairman, through you. TJ Bartlebort, Purchasing Manager for the City of Cheyenne. Just to clarify what Jason stated. So Steiner Thusen will be preparing the design documents that will be used for construction, and those documents will be done with a formal advertised bid, and that bid will come to the governing body for approval. The bidding documents contain language for our standard city warranty, and so I don't believe that the city not paying Steiner Thusen to come do an additional warranty inspection relieves the installer's right to construct it to standard and warranty anything that breaks. So hopefully that clarifies.
And Richard, Ms. Foster is shaking her head in the affirmative.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just have done with many warranties where we waited to the last minute and then we didn't get what we really wanted out of our warranty. So I always ask that question.
Don't apologize, because I've always been a kind of a stickler on those warranties myself. So any other questions, sir?
No, sir,
Any other
nothing.
questions?
No, nothing from me, and my hand is lowered.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this professional services agreement, please signify by saying aye.
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 Did we lose Ken? It must be that ocean breeze. As there's no one, we don't have Mr. Escabel anymore, as there's no one's opposed, that professional services agreement moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 34H, professional services agreement between the City of Cheyenne and JLM Design Group for the Dry Creek Master Plan Update and Drainage Code Review Project. 2019 to 2022 1% sales tax and Wyoming Office of Homeland Security FEMA grant.
Mr. Bay, welcome. Staff
How are you doing?
report, please.
West Bay Engineering. Before you is a professional services agreement between GLM and the city. This is to do an update on our Dry Creek Master Plan, as well as update the Unified Development Code drainage sections. The firm was selected based on qualification-based selection processes. We had 3 proposals, 2 firms were interviewed. GLM came out on top in both instances. The total cost for these design services will be $524,234, of which $332,803 is from our 1% drainage fund, and $191,430 is from a FEMA grant that we received a couple of years ago. I'm requesting approval of this contract. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Stand by. Any comments or questions from members of the public?
Hold on just a minute. And are you back with us? I don't see any hands raised from the public. I do have them back in, but.
Thank you. Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve in an amount not to exceed $524,234.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you to Mr. Bay, I had the opportunity to sit in on and be involved in this process of scoring these firms and also the interviews, and I'm just really excited. I think that this group is going to do a great job and has a real vision for usable drainage areas that we'll be able to use for multiple purposes. So I thought it was just kudos to you and your team for a job really well handled, I think, in the bidding process and how the whole thing was done professionally. So thank you.
Through you. We're very excited about the project as well, and the GLM Design Group came in with some pretty innovative ideas on how to present this and make it more attractive than just a dry engineering document. So we're excited to see what the finished product is going to look like.
It's exciting to finally see some progress on this
Yes.
project. We've been waiting a long time. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this professional services agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No one's opposed. Next item, please.
Number 34J, professional services agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Waste Management of Colorado Incorporated for the recycling services project from the Solid Waste Fund.
Staff report, please.
Craig O'Boy, Public Works. This contract has been in front of you before and has been approved, but I would like to think that it was some of our nagging that they've changed, but a company the size of Waste Management probably chose their operations and commodity prices changing to make these changes. They've changed what they'll accept for recycling. I'll just highlight some of the additionals that are going to go with number 4s and number 5s that are labeled on your plastics. They will also now accept glass, food, and beverage containers, which will be brown, clear, or green. It will need to be clean and empty, and when I say clean, it's relatively clean, not edible clean, so to speak. But I would always say that anything that's liquid does tend to leak into others and cause contamination, so that's always been a concern with glass. But with these changes, the contract terms will stay the same. That's just the only change that's there, and I'll recommend approval.
Well, I can't stop beaming, but, so, are there any members of the public that have any comments or questions on this item?
Any hands raised?
Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would so move to, approve in an amount not to exceed $200,000.
I'm going to second, motion. No, Mr. Johnson, Jen, you can write me in as seconding this motion.
Your city clerk says no.
Oh, gosh, okay. I guess I caused a ruckus this time,
You
so
caused a ruckus already.
Mr. Johnson will have to be on record as seconding this. Gosh, I've never seen Chris jump so quick. Comments or questions from the committee, please? Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you, I'm just curious, so I just want to make sure that I understand this at my house. So we're going to put our glass stuff in with all this other stuff, and it's going to be collected all in one fell swoop. And what about the safety of the people that are sorting this stuff?
Through you, Chairman, that's, Waste Management has probably changed their process of how they recycle it.
They can do it through by machine or whatever.
Yeah. And, and at one time, we did have glass, years ago, I think. You could go and dispense with your glass at the big blue containers that we had. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
I just had a call up. Will there be a PSA put out about this or some sort of a news release? Because I think people have been waiting for a long time for this, and we would like to have something for Mr. White to gloat over.
That was my question as well. Will there be, I certainly hope there'll be some information disseminated on this, because a lot of folks have waited and to know that not only can they now recycle their glass, but put it in the same container bin, I think that's very convenient for them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Through you, Chair, yes. We'll put it on our website. We'll start to update Recycle Coach, which I always recommend people download.
Hey, Jeff, when you're ready.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, you have a question.
No, Jeff, I just wanted to, sorry, I have a dead zone in my garage and I had to let the dogs in. So that I did second that. So if Chris needs it for her records, I'm a confirmed second.
Yes. Thank you, Richard. Any other comments or questions on this item? Well, thank you all from myself and also the many constituents that have reached out to me on this issue over the years. I know they'll be very happy. All those in favor of this professional services agreement, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chris, can I be put down as an aye?
No, try.
Always a problem. Next item, please.
35D, city contract number 150, notice of renewal of lease number 57-82HW-1-0171 from the United States Department of Agriculture Research Service to lease the High Plains Grasslands Research Station.
Staff report? Is there a staff report on this? Doesn't look like it. We'll trudge forward. Any comments or questions on this particular item?
Who's asked questions here?
It's a contract, I'm guessing Stephanie. Or Chris.
Well, Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk, the only thing I can tell you is this is a normal renewal. I did notice that when it came to the agenda, so it's a fairly common item to bring back for renewal, but I can't offer you anything more than that.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have their hands raised?
Nobody has their hand?
As there's no comments or questions from members of the public, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve in an amount not to exceed $1.
Second.
Now, that's a ridiculous amount. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this contract notice of renewal lease, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 35E, contract modification number 2 to contract number 7319 between the City of Cheyenne and KLJ Engineering for mapping and surveying services for the landfill and compost facility for a 2-year extension.
Staff report.
Craig Avoy, Public Works. This is to change some of the survey and services in the original contract to include the new Phase 1 area of the landfill to be surveyed. Changing from a grid system, which is, we just don't get the quantity. This will help with our compaction rates and quantity achieved. Also add 2 years to the contract to complete these services. Contract modifications for $49,616 for a new contract amount of $100.
Thank you. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would so move to approve in an amount not to exceed $99,232.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Right.
Yes, Dr. Aldrich.
Through you, I just wanted to make sure I understood this correctly, that the $99,000 is basically for those 2 years, and prior to that, we had paid, was it $49,000 for 2 years?
Through you, Chairman, the amounts, yes, I read wrong, but the 99,000 is for the additional 2 years, and the other is the
Okay, and the remaining amount, so I guess I'm just trying to figure out, was our previous contract with this company for 2 years previously? And what was that amount? I mean, is this in line with what we've paid?
Through you, Chair, I'm filling in for some recently departed employees to get some of the details, but the original contract was for $29,616, and that included some surveying of the perimeters that we have to do for DEQ. Mm-hmm. And then we did a modification for $20,000 to add some more additional. So that came to the $69,000. So that shows, and then the additional 99 is we're continuing to 2 more years.
It's about the same amount.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
The struggles we have to find a surveyor that will survey
garbage
landfill versus highways and streets and properties.
Good to hear. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item,
Thanks for picking up the
please.
pieces.
Thanks, Craig.
Number 35F, contract modification number
Thanks,
1, contract number 7500 between the City of Cheyenne and B&M Properties LLC for property located at 1800 Westland Road, Cheyenne, Wyoming, for the purpose of relocating the Cheyenne Transit System Office and Transfer Station.
Staff report.
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works. This is the purchase and sale agreement for 1800 Westland Road for our new transit offices. It was approved by the governing body, but when we sent it to the owner, the previous owner, to sign, he sent it to his lawyer, and his lawyer had some things that he didn't care for that were in the agreement. So they struck and initialed those items. They had to do with taxes, mortgage notes, and tenants and exclusive possession. So the problem was that, the previous owner had an arrangement with the tenant on payment of taxes, so the statement in there on taxes was not applicable. There was no mortgage or note on the property, so that statement wasn't applicable. And there are two statements in there about a tenant and exclusive possession, and, there are tenants in the building, and they remain in the building, and they are now paying us to be there. So all of those solutions were, necessary in order for us to get the FTA to pay the grant.
Okay.
We have to have a clean contract, and so
Okay.
we had to come back to you. I would recommend approval,
Thanks,
and I'm happy
Vicki.
to answer any questions.
Thank you, stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve the contract modifications.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
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 No one's opposed. That item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 37A, Bar and Grill License Application filed with the City Clerk's Office for Billy Jack's Wyoming LLC, doing business as Billy Jack's Pizza Pub, 4020 Airport Parkway, Suite 1, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. First and last item, it's been my deal for the last few meetings. This, item was postponed at the last council meeting. It's my understanding that they are in conversations with the airport to possibly utilize that retail liquor license. However, they have not come to an agreement at this point, and Mr. Cox could not be here today due to a previous engagement commitment that he had, but he did, request that I ask for him to postpone the item again.
Okay,
His, desire at this time.
so then how would that work, Chris? Then we'd approve a recommendation here, and then that that recommendation would go before the full governing body on Monday night?
Mr. Chair, you would just move to approve and then get a second and then move to postpone, and it'll return to the council meeting on Monday night.
Okay,
And then the recommendation would be to postpone at that time.
okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
How many times can we postpone? Two?
I think we can postpone a maximum of twice.
Or twice?
Is my
So this will be
understanding.
it.
Mr. Chair, that's, no, you can postpone as many times as you would like, just no longer than to the next governing body meeting at each postponement.
Okay. I thought it was only twice.
I thought so too, but, okay.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the public?
I don't see any hands raised.
Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee?
Now do we need to move to postpone for 2 weeks?
It's
Second.
been moved, okay, it's been moved to postpone for 2 weeks and seconded. All those in favor of the motion to postpone, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motion to postpone for a period of 2 weeks has been approved. For this item, as there are no other items on this agenda, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
How'd your, review go? Did you guys survive?
Oh, our